Imagine for a moment, you've been hitting this massive solid rock with a heavy sledgehammer.
Right, just swinging away.
Yeah, you've swung that hammer 99 times. Your hands are completely blistered, your shoulders are burning.
And you look at the rock and there's, what, zero visible damage?
Literally not even a scratch. At this point, human nature kicks in. You drop the hammer, you assume you're totally wasting your time, and you walk away.
Which is actually the worst possible thing you could do.
Exactly. But what if dropping the hammer on strike 99 is the single biggest mistake you could ever make? Today's deep dive is exploring the mechanics of why that happens.
Yeah, why we sometimes put just monumental effort into our lives, do everything perfectly, and see absolutely nothing to show for it.
It's a profoundly frustrating feeling, right?
Oh, it's an almost universal human experience.
Uh-huh.
But instead of just chalking it up to bad luck, the framework we are exploring today offers a deeply structural, almost architectural explanation for that exact feeling of being stuck in the mud.
And we are unpacking this through a really fascinating lens. We've got our hands on a detailed, translated document. It's titled Saturn Mahadasha, Delays and Karmic Restructuring.
It is a heavy title, but the concepts are incredible.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Our mission here isn't just to talk about astrology in some, abstract, mystical way. We are using this document to decode a very real psychological and structural phenomenon.
Right. We want to understand why certain chapters of your life demand an intense, repetitive grind. And more importantly, how you can navigate those chapters without burning out.
Before we can understand how to survive that kind of cosmic grind, we have to understand the shock of how it actually starts. Let's look at the sudden shift from what the text calls Jupiter's ease to Saturn's reality check.
Yeah, this framework outlines a massive transition. It happens when a person moves from a Jupiter Mahadasha into a Saturn Mahadasha.
I want to pause right there so we don't lose anyone. For the listener who might be completely new to this terminology, what exactly is a Mahadasha?
Think of a Mahadasha as a massive, overarching time cycle in your life. It's dictated by a specific planet.
Okay, so it's like a background thing.
Exactly. It sets the rules of engagement and the dominant energy for a very long stretch of time. The Jupiter period we're talking about, it lasts for 16 years.
Wow, 16 years.
Yeah, and the Saturn period that follows it, that lasts for 19 years.
Wait, 19 years?
And
So these are not short little glimpses or like bad weekends. These are massive eras of your life. What does that shift actually feel like on a Tuesday morning?
the text describes it as a jarring, almost violent shift in reality. See, for those 16 years under Jupiter, a person becomes conditioned to optimism.
Because Jupiter is the good stuff, right?
Right. It represents expansive energy, mental agility, and a sort of easy, structured look. Opportunities just seem to fall right into your lap.
But then Saturn shows up.
And the moment Saturn takes over for the next 19 years, that expansive energy is entirely revoked. Saturn introduces a cold, highly realistic system. Yeah, it demands slow, physical, heavily disciplined labor. The mental quickness and the lucky shortcuts that worked beautifully during the Jupiter years, they simply evaporate.
It makes me think of the day you graduate from college.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, you spend 4 years in this Jupiter-like bubble, right?
Yeah.
You're fueled by theoretical optimism. You're constantly looking at your sheer potential, surrounded by friends, and everything just feels expansive.
Everything is possible.
Exactly. Then you graduate and boom, you hit the brutal bottom-rung reality of an entry-level job. Suddenly the universe does not care about your potential or your big ideas.
You just have to prove yourself through menial, repetitive tasks.
Right, you're at the very bottom of the ladder.
That parallel captures the emotional drop perfectly, and the source material actually uses a very visceral metaphor to describe this specific Saturn experience.
Oh, the grinding mill thing, right?
Yes, the chaki. It's a traditional heavy stone hand-grinding mill used to make flour in rural villages.
So it's basically two massive stone discs, and you have to turn the top one by hand using a wooden peg.
Think about the physics and the biological toll of operating a chaki. It requires constant, heavy, physical effort from your entire body.
Your back aches, your arms are burning.
But despite all that energy you are pouring in, it only yields a tiny bit of flour with each rotation. You are literally grinding.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. The underlying logic here is that during a Saturn phase, the flow of material comforts and external rewards is intentionally severely restricted. The universe forces you into a humbler, scaled-down lifestyle.
So it's an intentional process.
Exactly. It's structurally designed to break down the ego's illusions.
Man, so you go from this expansive mindset to literally grinding heavy stones in the dark for a sprinkle of flour. When faced with that sudden restriction, I mean, the immediate human reaction is panic.
Natural. You want to speed the process back up.
Right, you think, let me try this side hustle, let me pivot my career, let me move to a new city. But the text warns that this is the absolute worst thing you can do.
It is perhaps the biggest mental error you can make during this cycle. The document explains this by diving into a very specific clash of energies.
What kind of clash?
It looks at what happens when Saturn is placed in the sign of Aries. So Aries is a fiery, impulsive sign ruled by Mars.
Okay, fire and impulse.
Right. It seeks explosive energy, quick starts, and instant gratification. But Saturn, conversely, demands deep time, patience, discipline, and systemic endurance.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because you just described modern culture.
I did, didn't I?
Yeah, we are constantly taught to fail fast, right? If a project isn't showing immediate ROI, you pivot.
Yeah.
You diversify your efforts. Why does the text say changing directions is a massive mental error?
Because it creates a fundamental clash of elements. It's fire versus ice.
Fire being Aries, ice being Saturn.
Exactly. Aries is that modern fail-fast mentality. The Aries impulse makes you want to abandon a project the second it gets difficult. You hit a wall, you feel frustrated, so you drop it and chase a quick win somewhere else.
But because Saturn is setting the rules for those 19 years...
That quick win doesn't actually exist.
Wow.
And that is the trap. The new project will inevitably hit the exact same wall. By constantly pivoting, you create a highly fragmented pattern of work.
So you're just starting a bunch of things and finishing nothing.
Right. You end up with multi-focused efforts where absolutely nothing matures. You burn through your energy reserves, which leads to chronic exhaustion and institutional failure.
Because Saturn flat out refuses to reward scattered ambition.
It only rewards single-point repetition.
Which brings us back to the sledgehammer. Single-point repetition. The text calls this the stone breaker.
Yes, the laborer tasked with breaking a massive boulder. They hit the rock 50 times, 80 times, 99 times.
And for a very long time, there is zero visible progress on the outside.
None. The laborer naturally doubts their own strength. They assume their effort is completely wasted.
Which perfectly mirrors that feeling of putting in massive effort and seeing the needle stay completely still.
But the crucial mechanism happening here is structural. If they do not get distracted by a different rock, if they keep striking that exact same spot on the 101st strike, the boulder splits wide open.
Because the success isn't generated by that final blow.
Exactly. The success is the cumulative, invisible structural impact of every single previous strike that seemed to do absolutely nothing. The microfractures were building beneath the surface the entire time.
That is wild. That invisible cumulative pressure. You are weakening the internal structure of the obstacle, even when your current reality looks completely unchanged.
It's a very powerful concept.
It really is. So, if we accept that we have to keep hitting the same spot, it leads us into one of the most complex paradoxes in the source material. What happens when your absolute greatest potential for success is locked inside the house of loss?
This is where the structural geometry gets fascinating. The document breaks down a very specific scenario for someone with a Taurus ascendant.
Let's do a quick baseline definition for the listener. An ascendant is basically the lens through which you experience the world, right?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's the zodiac sign that was rising on the eastern horizon the exact moment you were born.
Okay, so it sets up the map of your life.
It does. And for a Taurus ascendant, Saturn becomes what is known as a yoga karaka.
A yoga karaka. What does that mean?
It means Saturn is incredibly auspicious for them. It rules their 9th house of luck and their 10th house of career. So for this person, Saturn is their heavy hitter.
It holds their ultimate potential for success.
Right, their worldly power.
But, and this is a massive, but in the specific chart this document analyzes, this incredibly important planet of success is sitting debilitated in the 12th house.
Yes, the 12th house.
And the 12th house is the realm of loss, foreign lands, isolation, and hidden behind-the-scenes things. So what did this all mean for the listener? How does someone experience being highly capable but constantly feeling hidden or delayed?
The lived experience of this paradox is intense. Early in life, this person feels like a beast of burden.
A beast of burden.
Yeah. Because Saturn rules their career but sits in the house of loss and isolation, they find themselves carrying massive, crushing professional responsibilities.
But I'm guessing without the paycheck to match.
Exactly. They receive almost no matching recognition, fame, or income for it. They are doing the heavy lifting in the background while other people stand on stage and get the applause.
They're the ones turning the chalky mill in the dark.
That's it exactly. Furthermore, their career structure naturally gravitates toward those 12th house themes.
Like what specifically?
They're constantly pushed into isolated research, behind-the-scenes operations, or working in remote foreign locations far from their hometown. Psychologically, they feel like they are walking in the wrong direction while all their peers are moving forward into the spotlight.
That sounds incredibly lonely. And this heavy energy doesn't just stay neatly in their career, does it?
No, it bleeds into other areas of life through Saturn's drishtis, or aspects.
Right, the aspects. This basically means Saturn is sitting in that 12th house of isolation, but it's casting its gaze onto 3 very specific other areas of the person's life.
And creating pressure there, too. The gaze of Saturn is heavy, and these 3 specific aspects carry harsh realities.
Let's go through them. What's the first one?
The first is the 3rd aspect, which lands on the 2nd house, Gemini. The 2nd house governs your accumulated wealth, your immediate family, and your speech.
Speech, like literally how you talk.
Yes. Because Saturn's gaze restricts and delays, this causes severe friction in building up savings. It also creates emotional distance within the family unit, but the insight on speech is a very specific behavioral warning.
Yeah, that part was wild to me.
The advice is mindful silence. The text warns that because this gaze is so restrictive and heavy, your words carry an unintentional weight.
So you have to be careful what you say.
You must practice speaking only when absolutely necessary, because during this period, your casual words can easily become sharp, unintentionally deeply hurting others, or even entangling you in legal complications.
Wow, so keeping your mouth shut protects your relationships and your savings. What about the physical body? Because the next gaze seems to target your actual biology.
Yes, the 7th aspect gazes directly at the 6th house, Virgo. The 6th house is the realm of daily routines, debts, enemies, and disease.
And Saturn's influence there.
It demands relentless, grinding daily duty. And if you aren't careful, the bodily toll is severe.
It's the biology of stress, basically.
Exactly. The text points specifically to joint pain, nerve sensitivity, digestive blockages, and chronic bone-deep fatigue.
Just from the stress of the grind.
Right. The logic is that the relentless mental duty manifests as physical calcification. The only way to survive this specific aspect is by maintaining an incredibly strict daily routine to protect your biological clock.
Okay, let's just take a breath, because so far this sounds like an absolute nightmare.
It's definitely not easy.
You're working like a beast of burden, you're isolated, you can't save money, you're terrified to speak, and your joints are aching. At a certain point, a person has to ask, why on earth would the universe put someone through this?
And the answer to that why lies in Saturn's final gaze, the 10th aspect, which falls on the 9th house of Capricorn.
The 9th house represents higher wisdom.
Higher wisdom, ultimate fortune, and your legacy. The text calls this aspect the ultimate redeemer.
The Redeemer. I like the sound of that.
It is a cosmic guarantee that all the wisdom earned through those relentless early life trials, the isolation, the quiet grinding duty, will eventually solidify.
It turns into massive, unshakable professional and social prestige later in life.
Yes. It introduces a concept known as Nichbanga, which translates to the cancellation of debilitation.
Okay, cancellation of debilitation, so the bad stuff gets wiped out.
If this cancellation happens, those early struggles are not random punishments. They are a purifying fire.
Like forging gold. You know, you can't get impurities out of a precious metal by just leaving it on a shelf. You have to put it in a blast furnace.
That is the precise mechanism. Just as gold achieves its absolute highest purity only when subjected to extreme heat, the individual's character is being forged.
The fire of the 12th house burns away the ego.
Ego, impatience, entitlement. It leaves behind a character so structurally sound, so incredibly strong, that it can effortlessly crush obstacles and hold on to enduring, permanent elevation later in life.
Because you had to learn how to carry the heavy burden so you don't collapse when you are finally handed the crown.
Precisely.
I love that image, the purifying fire.
Sure.
But, you know, just when you think you're getting a handle on forging this golden resilience, the universe throws a massive curveball into the mix regarding your finances.
Yes, the narrative takes a sharp turn when we enter the Jupiter Antardasha.
Okay, and Antardasha is a sub-period.
Yeah.
So you're still trudging through the overarching 19-year Saturn grind, but now Jupiter takes the co-pilot seat for a little while.
Right, it's a phase within the phase.
And in the specific chart we are analyzing, Jupiter is incredibly dignified. It's sitting in its own sign of Pisces, over in the 11th house, which is all about massive gains, vast networks, and big rewards.
It is very strongly positioned.
So wait, if Jupiter is super strong and it's bringing in all this money and opportunity, how is this a problem? Shouldn't this be a massive relief?
It feels like it should be, but the spatial relationship between these planets creates a severe complication.
What do you mean by spatial relationship?
Well, Jupiter is sitting in the 11th house. Saturn is sitting in the 12th house. This means Jupiter's positioned exactly 12 houses away from Saturn.
Oh, I see.
In the system, this creates a highly volatile geometry known as a 212 relationship axis.
Okay, a 212 axis. The document says this represents a brutal tug of war between accumulation and structural decay.
Mhm.
It sounds to me, well, it sounds exactly like trying to fill a bathtub while the drain is wide open.
The open drain is the perfect way to visualize it. Because Jupiter is so strong in the 11th house, it does its job flawlessly.
It generates the massive opportunities.
Right? A huge influx of income, valuable mentors. The water is gushing into the tub. But because of Saturn's overarching dominant influence in the 12th house, the house of loss, that wealth is almost instantly drained away.
Wow. But where does it go? Does the person just blow it on frivolous things?
Rarely. It's usually extracted through structural costs, sudden hidden expenses, legal liabilities, medical bills for a family member, or forced long-term investments that lock the capital away where you can't touch it.
That is brutal.
The psychological tension here is almost unbearable. You're finally making real money. You're finally seeing the rewards of hitting that rock, but you cannot hold on to it. It slips right through your fingers.
That would make anyone want to pull their hair out. You finally see the gold, and it immediately falls down a grate in the floor.
It's incredibly testing.
So if we know the drain is wide open, and we know the rock requires 100 strikes, how do we actually live our day-to-day lives without losing our minds? This brings us to what I think is the most crucial part of the text.
The practical remedies.
Right. And I want to speak directly to you, the listener, for a second. Even if you step completely outside the realm of astrology, there is a profound psychological lesson here about how to act when life forces you into a waiting room.
When you are doing everything right, but the universe says, not yet.
Exactly. How do we align our behavior with that heavy, frustrating energy?
The true value of this document isn't just in diagnosing the friction. It offers a highly pragmatic framework for actionable alignment. How do you work with the resistance rather than exhausting yourself fighting it?
Okay, so what's the first major adjustment?
The first is practicing what is called voluntary simplicity.
Because the 12th house fundamentally demands loss.
Yes. Since loss and heavy expenditure are structurally mandated during this period, you must preempt the universe. You voluntarily downsize before you are forced to.
Well, that's smart.
You live simply, you deliberately slash your overhead, and you absolutely avoid speculative debt. You are essentially paying the cosmic toll up front on your own terms.
Rather than waiting for the universe to forcefully extract it through sudden catastrophic crises.
Exactly. You open a small valve to let the pressure out before the whole pipe bursts.
That is incredibly empowering. You are taking control of the loss. And what about the second practical adjustment? The one that deals with that fiery, frustrated Aries energy we talked about earlier, the urge to constantly pivot.
To tame that erratic, panicky impulse, you must honor Saturn in its form as Kal, which translates to time itself.
How do you honor time?
By establishing a rigid, unwavering daily schedule. You wake up at the exact same time, eat at the same time, work at the same time.
Remember the physical ailments we discussed earlier, the joint pain, the nerve sensitivity.
Right. This strict routine anchors your nervous system. It staves off the biological breakdown that comes from scattered, panicked energy.
It's about grounding your biology when your external reality feels totally chaotic.
Yes, structure is your sanctuary. And finally, the text offers a deeply spiritual remedy to satisfy that isolating, heavy energy of the 12th house. They call it karma yoga.
Karma yoga, that's the yoga of action, specifically selfless physical service, right?
Correct. And the framework advises that you perform this service in environments that heavily resonate with 12th house themes.
And the 12th house is isolation, foreign lands, hidden things. So places of confinement.
Exactly. Volunteering your physical labor in hospitals, prisons, remote ashrams, or homeless shelters. It also suggests donating dark-colored items or feeding stray animals.
That makes so much sense. Let's look at the psychology of why this works. When you are feeling invisible, burdened, and isolated, your instinct is to wallow in it.
You feel like a victim.
But by voluntarily stepping into spaces where people are experiencing profound, literal isolation and suffering, you gain immediate perspective.
You transform your own internal feeling of victimhood into active spiritual liberation.
You are taking the exact energy that is frustrating you, isolation, delay, heavy burdens, and you are actively choosing to engage with it to help someone else whose burden is heavier.
It satisfies the cosmic requirement for loss, because you are freely giving away your time and labor. It flips the script entirely.
It really does. So what does this all mean when we step back and look at the big picture? The absolute beauty of this perspective, whether you view it as ancient cosmic law or just a profound psychological framework, is the realization that delays are not denials.
They really aren't.
The grinding repetition of the Chacky mill, the forced simplicity, the lack of immediate applause, that feeling of being a beast of burden, these aren't signs that you are failing at life.
They're structural necessities. You are building a foundation deep enough and solid enough that it won't crumble when the real weight of success finally arrives.
And that leaves us with a fascinating concept to reflect on.
Yeah, I'd like to offer a final thought for you to mull over as you go about the rest of your week. Look at the specific area in your life right now where you feel the most blocked.
The place where you are the most frustrated.
Exactly, and feel the most invisible despite your monumental effort. What if that specific area isn't a sign of your inadequacy or failure?
What if that exact frustration is the purifying fire we discussed?
Right, currently forging the hidden, unshakable strength that will become your greatest legacy 10 years from now.
Think about the stonebreaker. You might be on strike number 99 and your rock looks completely untouched, but the internal structure is shifting beneath the surface.
Don't drop the hammer.
Keep striking the exact same spot. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time as we keep unpacking the fascinating hidden structures of our world. Stay curious, keep grinding, and remember your 101st strike might be just around the corner.